All right, let's get into the first mailbag of 2022. We took a week off from the mailbag last week, the final week of 2021. We took the week off from the mailbag. Actually, we took a week off from the mailbag the previous week too, because I was traveling. So we have the first mailbag of 2022. That's the point. You can email info@davidpakman.com. Don't abuse it. Probably close to 100 people now send emails so regularly that the emails are auto-filtered into a very specific folder kept only for law enforcement purposes, in case law enforcement comes to us and says, "Sir, have you ever heard from this person?" And we say, "Yes, we have." Okay, let's get to a variety of different messages and emails that came in. First one is from someone who goes by the name Gypsy Soul, who says, "Who do you think you're? You're not a journalist, just a wannabe YouTube star." I never call myself a journalist. That's true. YouTube star is more subjective, but we're in the top half of 1% of YouTube. Make of that what you will. Not everyone refusing the vaccine is a Trump supporter, you uneducated clown. That's true. We never said that. We explained that Trump supporters are the most anti-vax group, but not every Trump supporter is anti-vax. So far, we agree. A lot of pejoratives, but we agree. You're spreading misinformation and conspiracies and lies. Well, I reject that. That's a claim made without evidence. If you want to present some evidence, I will examine it. Take your vax and booster and shut your mouth. Well, no, I do a show where I comment. You don't have to listen. I'm allowed to speak. See, that's the thing about freedom of speech. You can't tell me to shut my mouth. You can tell me not to listen. You can tell me you're not going to listen, and that's fine. Mind your own business. Your discrimination and bullying and pushing and shaming unvaccinated people, and we are tired of it. All right, well, have a good time. I hope everything goes really, really well for you. And I'm finding myself without too much else to say to this individual, but that's daily. That's daily, guys. Dozens of messages like that. Here's a really weird one. I don't know if this is meant to be hate mail, if this is meant to be confusing or some kind of commentary, but Sean wrote to me and simply said, "David, sir, Ive Hermectin. Have you Vermectin? Vermectin. That's the way it's spelled." I don't know what the hell Sean is talking about, but this is a really strange job I have, where that's part of my job is interpreting messages like that and trying to figure out what does it mean. All right, now let's get on to more substantive stuff. Nigel wrote in and says, "Hey, David, new internal poll out from Georgia 14, Marjorie Taylor Greene's district, shows Marjorie with a strong lead in the Republican primary. This can't bode well for our country. Best regards, sir." Yeah, we've been saying one of the big signals we're looking at in 2022, and this 2022 is about to start. We've got a few weeks before it starts. One of the signals we'll be looking at in terms of the country is, does Trumpism do well in November, or does Trumpism fail in November? And we're not going to know the answer for some time. But one of the important things to remember is that a lot of these weaponized Trumpists, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert or Boebert, as Ro Khanna called her, Madison Cawthorn and others, they are in such heavy Republican districts and heavy Trump districts that their victories don't tell us that much. It's like they're obviously going to win if they run for re-election. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of those people. I expect her to win. And honestly, being banned from Twitter, being kicked off of her committee assignments, all of this sort of stuff, I don't think it hurts her at all with the people voting for her in her district. So yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing really, really well, and I expect her to win. That's not what will tell us, will Trumpism prevail long term in the United States? Next message is from Jade about California gas prices. Jade says, "Hi, David. I keep hearing you refuting Trump's claims that California gas prices have reached 7-something, while presidents don't control gas prices, and it's not widespread. There are, in fact, many gas stations along the California coast, specifically in the Big Sur area south of Monterey, that have gas prices in that range. The reason being, it's just so difficult to get gas to this area. Attached is a photo of a Valero and my wife and I stopped at in September when we got married, showing gas between $6.59 and $7. Just wanted to clear it up. Big fan. Thank you for reading. Yeah, remember, I never claimed when Trump would say the lie from Trump was not that one gas station might have had gas for $7.77. That was the highest number Trump picked, maybe $7.87, he even said. The deception was Trump was saying, when I left office, gas was $1.87. And now it's $7.77 in California. And there's like 5 lies in there. 1, it wasn't $1.87 when he left. It was more like $2.20 something. 2, that's the national average gas price. And he's comparing it to the highest possible price that maybe exists somewhere in California for super premium. So you're not even comparing apples to apples. The apples to apples would be that when Trump said it was $7.77 in California, the national gas price was like 3 something. That's the deception. And I was just out in California. $6.59 is the most I saw. So it's not that these things can't exist anecdotally. It's that Trump's lying about the entire context and telling you, well, it used to be 187, now it's 777. It's like, it's not 777. That's not the average California price, and that's not the average national price, and it wasn't 187 when you left, and it had nothing to do with you. Okay, I think we get the point. Drew wrote in about testing problems, COVID testing problems, and says, hey, David, I like your assessment of the under-testing that will take place. But to add to the reason why testing numbers will be short, I live in Pittsburgh. Next PCR availability is 1/2/22. This is like a week-old email. And there are not rapid tests. The testing infrastructure just isn't there right now. It's insane how bad the testing infrastructure is in the United States. We're 2 years in. Even blue states. I just saw friends in Boston with a picture where they're like a block and a half away from a street light. And they said, you have to get to that street light just to like check in and start the process to get a PCR test. It's hours. And then it can take 2 to 3 days to get your results. Should we be testing? Of course. If you're not super sick, should you go to the ER for a test? We're being told no, because then people are clogging up the ERs. So people go elsewhere. But the diagnostic value diminishes if you can't get the test for this long, if you're in lines, potentially spreading it to other people in line. And at the end of the day, if you don't know sooner, sure, everybody should isolate until their results. But it's just, this is not plausible if we are saying this is the way we're going to stop the spread. Testing that is this disastrous is just not going to stop the spread. It's unclear testing will stop the spread at all when many people have no symptoms and have no reason to go get tested. That's a different issue. But it is insane that 2 years in, we still don't have appropriate infrastructure in one of the richest countries in the world. Will wrote in and said, how are monoclonal antibodies more natural than vaccines? David, sir, have you noticed the glaring contradiction at the heart of the right's grift over monoclonal antibodies being a safer alternative to vaccine? They promote vaccine hesitancy on the grounds that they're risky, unnatural, and untested. But in what universe is a vaccine, which essentially trains your own immune system to fight off the virus on its own, less natural than having lab-produced synthetic antibodies injected into your bloodstream? Not to mention, we've been using vaccines a lot longer than we've been using monoclonal antibodies. So the idea that vaccines are somehow less tested doesn't make sense either. Yeah, guys, every talking point, last time I talked about this, people emailed saying, why are you against monoclonal antibodies? I'm not, but you take those when you're sick. I'd rather people not get sick in the first place. Or if they get sick, for it to be so mild, you wouldn't go and get monoclonal antibodies. They say, well, the vaccine's untested. And anyway, we have a treatment called monoclonal antibodies. Pfizer vaccine is fully approved, monoclonal only EUA. Well, the vaccine is big pharma. It's a cash cow for big pharma. A vaccine regimen is really, really cheap. Really cheap. There's a lot more money to be made on monoclonal antibodies. It's thousands of dollars per treatment. So the big pharma money grubbing thing out the window. Number 3, side effects from the vaccine. Look at the side effects from the antibodies. Hundreds of millions of people have taken the vaccine, whereas a very, very small fraction of that have taken the antibodies. The side effects can be real, and it can also affect your immune system and its ability to fight COVID in the future. All of the natural I'd rather have natural immunity so I'll get sick and then get monoclonal antibodies. There's nothing natural about monoclonal antibodies. Every argument is not a valid argument. Should we have both? Yes. But it's better for people not to get sick and not need monoclonal antibodies. It's such a simple idea, and yet we can't seem to get people to accept it. Benjamin wrote in and said, this is a beautiful Seinfeld quote, "It's not a lie if you believe it." Benjamin says, "Hello, David, sir. Hope you're able to recognize I go to UMass Amherst. I know you're an alum." Thought that was worth pointing out. Of course, go Minutemen. "My question, plain and simple, can be summed up from the quote by George Costanza in Seinfeld. Remember, Jerry, it's not a lie if you believe it. I'm wondering, while we're able to truly tell Trump and the right's lies from the real truth, are they truly lying if they either A, get a piece of information that gives them the best info to prove their argument, or B, truly believe what they're saying is true? Is that lying or just being stupid? I hope the question is worded clearly enough. Go Minutemen, Ben." Yeah. There's no doubt that a ton of the people repeating COVID disinformation don't believe that they are lying. They believe that they're telling the truth. They're misinformed. They are, in many cases, incompetent. Many of them want to believe the things that they believe. So they're not also, if I want to believe that the vaccine doesn't work and I find people telling me that who I believe are credible, I will accept it with less rigor and testing than I might if it's something I don't want to believe. So it can be a blend of the two. I'm going to accept and believe things that I already am predisposed to want to believe. That's certainly a part of it. But there is no question that many of the people falling for this stuff do believe it. They may not even know how to separate truth from fiction, right? They may not really understand what does it mean to research a topic, but they do believe it, and they're not just spreading disinformation on purpose. They're spreading disinformation, but they're spreading it because they believe it's true. Eden wrote in about 2024 and says, "Hey, David, longtime listener and member for a few years now. Just interested to hear your opinion on a Warren Buttigieg ticket. Warren is progressive with a great track record. Buttigieg is much more corporate, but charismatic. Love to hear your thoughts. Keep up the great work." Warren Buttigieg is an interesting ticket because if you look at it piece by piece, is Elizabeth Warren the most progressive? No. But is she one of the most progressive Democrats in the Senate? Yes. Wealth tax. Wealth tax is something, it's quite aggressive. And there's a lot of progressives who love it. She's one of the few people who likes the wealth tax. Is she the most progressive on every issue? No. But she has some economic ideas. Many of her ideas are quite progressive in the Senate. Pete Buttigieg. Is he the most progressive? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But is he at least theoretically the type of charismatic figure? He goes on Fox News and just crushes them, absolutely crushes them. Energy and youth, which is lacking in much of the Democratic Party. Yeah, he fits that bill as well. And yet, with a lot of so-called progressives, if you said, what about Warren Buttigieg? They would say, oh, that is a toxic corporate pro-business. That's horrible, horrible, horrible. Do I think it's a dream ticket? No. Do I think that it actually, when you take emotion out of it and you say, what have we had? What were Hillary's views? What are Trump's views? What are the mainline Republican views? What are the mainline Democratic views? And you say, here's Warren's perspective and Buttigieg, and here's the kind of intangibles. She's not very charismatic at all. Buttigieg very much so. It's an interesting ticket. It is not a dream ticket. It is not the uber progressive ticket, but it is an interesting ticket. And what sort of pains me a little bit is that a huge part of the left would reflexively say absolutely not, because they hate both of those folks as individuals. And that saddens me. I'm not calling for Warren Buttigieg. It's not super exciting to me, but I do think that when we look at these, we really have to take a step back, take emotion out of it and say, let's look at policy. Let's put it on paper and see exactly where these people would fall. I think it's an interesting idea. By the way, I have no idea what the best Democratic ticket would be in 2024. Not even thinking about that yet. The first question is Joe Biden running for re-election? Because if he is, nobody's going to challenge him. And that's for better or worse. I've said I don't love Biden's chances in 2024 against Trump. I don't love Biden's chances in 2024 against someone like Ron DeSantis. But if Biden runs for re-election, I don't believe anyone's seriously going to try to take it away from him. Let me know your thoughts. We have a great bonus show for you today. It's actually me on today's Friday bonus show. Pat is out this week. He'll be back next week. We will see you on the bonus show. Sign up at joinpakman.com and get yourself instant access. One of our sponsors is Blinkist, who's been supporting the David Pakman Show longer than any other sponsor. Blinkist is the app that lets you listen to or read an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. Blinkist is the way to absorb those books you can't make time for. Blinkist takes top nonfiction titles, pulls out the book's key takeaways and insights, and gives it to you in the form of a text or audio explainer that you can consume in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, now you actually do have time to learn about all the things you've been wanting to tackle. On the Blinkist app, I just listened to This Is Your Mind on Plants by the great Michael Pollan. Super interesting, the history of caffeine and so many other things. Blinkist has you covered on podcasts too. Blinkist takes long episodes of popular podcasts and distills them into audio you can listen to in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, you can become knowledgeable about so many different things. You can have conversations with people about more topics. Blinkist makes you more well-rounded. Try Blinkist for free and get 25% off a subscription. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. The link is down below.